And you're looking around, you're going, yikes, the walls are closing in on me. And now you're telling me that I better be prepared to be impoverished? Look, there's a subset of Canadians that are all on board, and they're calling you a traitor if you don't see it the same way they do. Be prepared for whatever it's going to take economically to get through this, because we will get through this, and we will get through it as a nation. We're going to tell you who's not going to see it that way. And this is the scary thing, and it's going to have a lot of people angry at me on Twitter and on YouTube for saying this. I'll tell you who's not going to see it the same way. Is Alberta. If Trump moves forward putting tariffs on Albertan oil, I don't see Canada walking away with this as a nation. I just don't. I think that there's such a huge gap in how people feel politically, socially, culturally in Ontario versus how they feel in Alberta. I have friends in Alberta. I live in Ontario, so I know the Ontario mindset very well. Most of the people that I hang out with in Ontario, they wouldn't even watch my content on YouTube because they think that I'm some kind of crazy right-winger. I talk to my friends in Alberta, they think that I'm some kind of crazy left guy. They think that I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm just a centrist. I'm just calling it like I see it. And I believe that if there's not some sort of off-ramp to what's happening right now in this country, and I'm not sure what that off-ramp is, building a pipeline is only going to make so big of an impact. It's not going to save this country. When you build Energy East, which is going to cost $40 billion to build, it's going to take probably a decade to build. Donald Trump is going to be gone in 4 years. It's going to bring in what, $40 billion a year of additional exports. That's going to save our economy. What do? $700-800 billion a year in exports. That's not going to save us from losing our biggest trading partner. Anybody who works for a company that sells any services or products into the US that gets hit with the 25% tariff, poof, that's gone. That is going to be a mammoth hole to have to fill. I just don't see how we're going to fill that hole other than trying to print a whole bunch of money, hand it to American corporations with the strings attached that you got to keep your employees employed. And by the way, this might just be money. This might just be throwing good money after bad, because a lot of these workers who are going to get money because their employer can no longer sell into the US. Well, what's the assumption here? Is the assumption that Donald's going to remove these tariffs after a year? Is that what we're thinking? That after 1 year, these tariffs are just going to go away, so it's okay to just start giving huge handouts? What about 2 years? Maybe after 2 years, the US is going to cry uncle and say, we'll cancel the tariffs, and then everything goes back to normal. So we do it for 2 years. Then what? It doesn't happen. Now we have just exploded our federal debt. We printed a ton of money, and we're in the same position we would have been in if we never introduced any of the stimulus in the first place, other than it juiced the economy for a little bit. And the scariest thing is, and I've been saying it in all my videos, some people say that I'm getting repetitive on the talking points, but that's just because it's true. Canada's economy is fundamentally built on three things: housing speculation and bank lending tied to that housing speculation, government deficit spending, and immigration. Well, we can't bring more immigrants here because there's no place for them to live, and they're kind of realizing that there's no opportunity here. So we've put the brakes on that. Now, federal government spending, you can always do that as much as you want, but eventually we're going to start to see our bond rating get smashed if we don't get stuff more in line, which means that our dollar is going to get whacked. But then the big problem here is that Canadian real estate is almost in a league of its own, and there's just been explosive debt tied to that housing speculation. So we look around and we go, well, what happens next? How are people going to service this debt? The US puts 25% tariffs on us, and we're going to match them. What's that going to mean? It's going to mean inflation, because it's going to mean everything around us gets more expensive. And what do you do in inflationary periods? You raise interest rates. But let's also not forget that there's going to be a massive amount of job loss. I already know a couple of guys who have lost their jobs as a result of the tariffs. And I'm not sure that there are any easy answers. That's the scary thing for Canadians. A lot of them have pride, and God bless them. But I'll tell you right now, if you're presented with two options, one, citizenship to the greatest economic power in the world, the other, your national pride and having a significantly reduced standard of living, I know for some people, they'll piss in the wind all day, but man, for that single mom who's barely getting by, telling her that her life's going to get 25% more difficult as a result of all of these economic problems that are happening, that's going to be a hard sell.